Greetings, folks. In this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to set up a 1x2 by 1x35 aluminum C-channel piece so that it's ready to be used as part of your VEX robot. I've brought in some original part files from the VEX website, and I'm continuing to build them. I've got them set up just like on VEX website. They're sorted into electronics, motion, and structure folders. And then these are what I've uploaded so far. And from these are just all found on the VEX website, and they're CAD files. You download them, you upload them to Fusion right here, upload as step files, and then you can import them in. So I'm going to be doing the C channel, this one here, this one here, 1x2 by 1x35, because that's what I'm going to build my drive base out of mainly. So I'm going to bring one on into this file. I've already saved this file as C channel underscore 1x2 by 1x35 underscore aluminum. And you have to save it before you're able to import a component into it. So if you haven't done that, do that first. The next thing I'm going to do is I need to break the link here so that I can actually start working on my own version of this rather than a component. A locked component to that. So I'm going to do that. And then the thing that I need to do is, because often you're going to be obviously trying to put together parts with screws and nuts and shafts and bearing blocks and stuff, or bearings and stuff like that. When you go to join them by hitting the J tool, you want to center their joins onto these holes, and there's no center spot on these. These are squares. They don't have a center spot. Circles do, but squares don't. So we need to create those, and the way that it's usually done is by creating a single, what's called joint origin. Okay, and you might have seen that, and then you go in, and if I wanted to do one, I would say, between this face here and this face here. Okay, and then I want it to be in the middle of that, but I also want it to be on this face here, so now it's nice and flat. And now I can go, it's a bit of an exhausting process, and now I can go and hit J for join, get the center. You can see that joint origin in the center of that head there, and then I wanted it to be on this one, and it goes in, and then I've got to flip it. For some reason it's not on rigid, so now it's on rigid. But there, finally I got one screw in. Okay, and that's the process to get one screw in. And then if I wanted another one there, I'd have to make another joint origin and another joint origin and another joint origin if I'm putting stuff together. So it becomes a bit of an exhausting process. Especially since if I'm putting a nut in, the nut has to be flat to this face, so I have to put a joint origin on this face too. So it's an exhausting process to do it by joint origins, is my point. So there's another method. You can't, unfortunately, just copy and paste a bunch of joint origins. That's not something that Fusion supports, or create a pattern with them. So what we do is we actually do it in a different manner. We're going to do it with, I'm going to get rid of this entirely. I don't want that screw anymore. There it goes. We're going to do it with points. Okay, so points are a two-dimensional shape. Right? They're not three-dimensional. 2 points only have 2 dimensions. They have an X and a Y direction or position on the Cartesian plane. They don't have a third. They don't have a third dimension to them. So I'm going to do a sketch, because that's two-dimensional when you're drawing on a sheet of paper, and I'm going to find the exact position right here in the middle. And so for that, I want create point. I've got a hotkey already, or I get a keyboard shortcut to it already as Shift P, but you can change yours there. And I will do mine as Shift P, I believe it was. Yeah, Shift P, and so it comes on up. And I just want to hover over the midpoint. Triangle means midpoint there and the midpoint there. And then as I come down, they will make an intersection for me at the dead center. Perfect, I've got my point. It's done. Now, I can copy this one out as a pattern all the way across. Okay, and I can also copy it down all the way across, so I can do it that way. Let's do that first. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to keep it as a sketch, because it's still a sketch move, and it's a rectangular pattern. So I'm going to do this one point here. Okay, and you can see right now it's set up to 3 copies, so I could copy it 3 times out, Okay, but I actually need way more than that. If you count all the holes, there are 35 holes across the top and bottom rows. Okay, that's the 35 part. So of the 1 by 2 by 1 by 35. So I'm going to say 35. And the full length from here all the way to the end is 17.5 inches. Okay, and if I type in that, remember this is going to be a negative for me, might not be for you, depends on your orientation. Negative 17.5 actually puts it past. Okay, and that's because I'm not taking into consideration the distance from the center here to the edge, and the same thing down the other end. Okay, so all the way down here, this center point to that edge, that's not taken into consideration. So that distance, the distance from the center of a hole to the center of the next hole, is 1/2 inch. So this is actually half of that, which is 1/4. And if there's 2 quarters, one here and one at the other end, that would make 1/2. So it's not 17.5, it's actually 17 is our distance along. And now that, I'm just going to zoom out and double check, aligns perfectly. Okay, now you'll notice over here is I've got 35 of them spaced over a total of 17 inches, but there's also 3 copies that you can't see here, okay, because they're right on top of each other. Have a look. If I drag them out, there's the 3 copies. So you really have to pay attention to that. I just want 1 copy, and that makes that entire row. So just 1 copy of the original. Now, if I wanted to make 2 copies and spread that over down to the bottom, whoa, what happened there? Oh, I was making copies rather than that, and I wanted to spread it over the distance instead. Okay, so the distance is actually this arrow, and if I drag it down, okay, remember the distance from from the center of a hole to the next center of the hole, on the same row. Okay, that's 1/2 inch. If you're going from the center of this down to the center of this along that row, that's 1/4 inch. Okay, because that's how their math is set up. So I need to make this here at -0.5 inches. It will be dead centered. Okay, isn't that fantastic? I love it. I hit OK, and I've got all of my points set up for the top and bottom rows. Well, what about the middle rows? Well, for those, unfortunately, I'm going to have to do another point, and I'm going to have to center it. Okay, and the math is just a little bit different, very similar. Okay, there's my point, and I'm going to go do my rectangular pattern. Create rectangular pattern of that point, and it's going to go this way. Okay, and again, I'm not going to need 3 of them. I'm going to need a heck of a lot more than 3 of them. There's actually 34 total across the middle rows. Okay, 34 total across the middle rows. Go ahead and count them if you like, or take my word for it. And the distance, this is where it gets a little bit different. Remember, the whole length of the piece of metal is 17.5 inches, but we're losing from here to here, which is a whole 1/2 inch from there to there. And the other end is also another whole 1/2 inch. And I just know that because I've worked with this before. Okay, you can take out your tape measure and measure it, but it's a whole 1/2 inch at each end, which makes this not 17.5 but 16.5 inches. And actually it should be negative. And I've actually typed in 16.6, so 16.5 inches. And now you can see they're all lining up nicely. And again, I've got 3 copies. I don't want 3 copies, I want 1. Okay, just 1 of it, and we should be all good. Okay, so there you go. I've got all points laid across this single face here now for my joints to be able to be made with my screws or nuts or bearing flats or shafts to be able to go through, so they're all nicely centered. But that's all set. That's fantastic. In the next video, folks, I'm going to show you how to take them and how to transpose them over to this face. Okay, because, well, I would put a screw through here, bink, but then I need to be able to put a nut on the back that lines up flat with this face, so I need a joint origin here. Okay, and unfortunately that's not helpful with the other one on the other side. As well, we've got to do this side here and the inside there, so we've still got some work to do on this, but I'll show you how to do those in the next ones. All right, folks, see you in a